Hundreds are feared dead in the Ukrainian town of Borodyanka as the death toll in Kramatorsk rises after an attack on a railway station. A global campaign pledges more than €9 billion in grants and loans to help Ukrainian refugees.
Russian-owned artwork seized by Finnish authorities due to Western sanctions on Moscow have been returned.
Polling stations around France are being prepped ahead of Sunday's first round of presidential elections.
The first all-private astronaut crew arrives at the International Space Station.
Ukraine's interior minister has visited the shattered town of Borodyanka. The country's president has described the situation there as much worse than Bucha, where horrific images of civilians killed prompted widespread outrage. Ukraine's military says Russian forces are continuing to regroup and head east.
In the Donetsk direction, the enemy continues assault operations. The main efforts are being concentrated on taking control of several settlements and establishing full control over the city of Mariupol.
Russia's defense ministry has released footage of its fighter jets firing on targets below. They are denying all accusations of targeting civilians and accuse Ukraine authorities of incitement.
According to confirmed data, the Kyiv nationalist regime is preparing another provocation to accuse Russia of alleged massacres of civilians in Irpin. I draw your attention to the fact that units of the Russian armed forces left this settlement more than a week ago.
The war in Ukraine is now well into its sixth week and taking on a new dimension with growing evidence of human rights atrocities by Russian troops as they retreat from the Kyiv region. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen arrives in Warsaw to take part in the worldwide pledging event Stand Up for Ukraine. Together with the Polish leader, the Global Citizen Organisation, and a remote Canadian Prime Minister, they campaigned to address the war, pledging more than €9 billion in new grants and loans to help Ukrainians forced to flee their homes.
Today we stand up for Ukraine, but at the same time, Ukraine has been standing up for us. Ukrainians are fighting not only for their freedom, but also for ours.
President Volodymyr Zelensky joining in to tell the world his nation has never lost hope.
45 days of a full-scale war and defense against Russia's attack. The attack by the largest country in the world, the largest by its territory, the largest by its aggressiveness, the largest by its impunity. Russian leadership failed to account for one fact. The fact that it attacks the other largest country in the world, Ukraine, the largest by its courage.
Slava Ukraine.
On Friday, Global Citizen hosted a social media rally where musicians and celebrities used their platforms to pledge their support and called on others to do the same.
Before heading back to Brussels after her visit to Kyiv, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is in Warsaw today, Saturday, fronting the Stand Up for Ukraine pledging event. And she joins me now on Euronews. President Ursula von der Leyen, thank you so much for being with us on what was a very intense week for you. So my first question is, after being in Kyiv, after being in Bucha, how will that change then your decision-making back in Brussels?
Well, I've seen the reality of war, and this gives you nightmares. It's unbelievable. There are almost no words that could fill the horror that I've seen. But this gives me more determination and more strength, really, to fight Putin's ugly war and to stand up for Ukraine.
When you were in Kyiv, you very symbolically gave a questionnaire to President Zelensky. Are you a little bit worried, though, that you overpromised membership of the European Union, that then back in Brussels, EU member states might then have to underdeliver?
This is an important step that we're doing. The Council tasked the European Commission to develop the questionnaire that is then the basis for the opinion that we are forming. And we've been working hard, day and night, to be faster. That's what we've done. It's our task, but we took our responsibility to speed up that process. Now, together with the Ukrainian authorities, we are going to develop this opinion that is so important for Ukraine, and this is the next step to go.
Okay. President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, thank you so much for speaking to Euronews.
Thank you.
Russian-owned artwork that was seized by the Finnish authorities due to sanctions on Moscow have been returned. The works and artefacts that were on loan to various countries from several Russian museums were originally stopped at the Finnish-Russian border. Finnish authorities suspected it was an attempt to contravene sanctions. There has since been an amendment to regulations allowing these works that have a total insurance value of around 42 million euros to return to Russian museums. This change came after Moscow summoned the Finnish ambassador to Russia to discuss the matter, prompting talks with Brussels. However, two masterpieces from a Russian collection rarely seen abroad that were on loan to an important Paris art exhibition are to remain in France, the French government has said. The works were in the Morozov collection that closed earlier this month. One is owned by a Russian oligarch currently targeted by Western sanctions, and another belongs to a Ukrainian museum.
Voters in the French city of Lille are preparing to cast their ballot in the first round of the presidential elections on Sunday. Recent polls have shown a marked fall in President Emmanuel Macron's lead over his main challenger, far-right candidate Marine Le Pen. Campaigning has now ended, and voter turnout is expected to be lower than previous elections. This woman says she feels it's very important for citizens to choose their president.
Politicians promise us everything. We will see. I don't know who I'll vote for on Sunday.
Voters in French overseas territories from the South Pacific to the Caribbean have already started casting their ballots. Expats in the Americas too. Macron and Le Pen are the firm favourites, but there are 10 other candidates competing to reach the second round later this month. They're marching for what they say will save their future, fighting against climate change. On the eve of the French presidential election, citizens across France's major cities rally in the streets. Many say the environment has not weighed heavily enough in the debate leading up to the first round of polls. They're joined by anti-racist and feminist groups, as well as charities, to reiterate the importance of social justice too. 83 events were organised across France, with some 300 associations involved.
A Palestinian militant has been killed and several people wounded after the Israeli military raided the West Bank city of Jenin and its adjacent refugee camp. According to Israeli forces, it was carrying out a counter-terrorism operation at the home of a gunman who shot and killed 3 people in central Tel Aviv on Thursday. Family members and the local community have already held a funeral for the man killed in Saturday's operation. The Israeli military says he died after its troops came under fire and retaliated. Jenin, where the operation took place, has long been considered a stronghold of Palestinian militants. The gunman who killed 3 people in Tel Aviv on Thursday lives there. He was eventually found and killed by Israeli forces. Thursday's attack was the 4th of its kind in Israel in 3 weeks and comes amid heightened tensions around the start of Ramadan. 2 of the 4 attacks were carried out by men from Jenin.
1 meter.
1 meter to go.
After blasting off from Cape Canaveral on Friday, the first all-private astronaut crew has arrived at the International Space Station. The rocket ship carried a team of 3 businessmen who all paid the hefty sum of over 50 million euros for their stay in space. They are Larry Connor, the head of a real estate company, Eaton Stibb, the co-founder of an investment fund, and Mark Pathy, the director of an investment firm.
Is currently the chief executive.
They are led by retired NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria. The mission called AX-1 was organised by Axiom Space, and SpaceX provided the Falcon 9 rocket and the Dragon capsule for the trip. It's not the first time that paying customers have visited the ISS. However, it's the first time private citizens have travelled there on a US-made spacecraft.
Phenomenal call-outs from all the engineers.